Hello, today is October 31st, 2020, and the time is 8:29 a.m. Again, this video is going to be tying in with my previous videos, and there's one particular video that I made maybe a week or two ago, who gave human creation knowledge, and I'll leave the link to that video in the description box below. Now, again, I'm going to be using Christians as an example, and I'm not picking on them, but I'm only using them as an example because that's a community that I have more exposure to. And it's not to say that it's only Christians that this applies to, because belief systems and religions of all sorts claim the same type of thing that I'm going to be talking about today. So just to set the foundation here, a lot of people talk about this being the end times, and whatever's taking place today is unique to this particular time. And I have shown how there's a pattern with these cycles of civilization going back 100 years and throughout human history. And a lot of people say that, for example, the Most High will open their eyes, give them the truth so they can see and everything else. And again, this applies to belief systems and religions all around the world, all these different kinds. So here's the thing. Again, who has given the human creation knowledge? And as I said in this other video, human beings were never meant to have knowledge of all these wonders and everything else. And I know that's a very hard pill to swallow for many people, but it is what it is. When you look back into, for example, Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and both talk about two different human creation events. And a lot of Christians, for example, they confuse the two and say, well, Genesis 2 talks about Genesis 1, and a lot of mental gymnastics go into that to make it fit. Anyway, as I said, I talk about this in other videos. So when the human creation was made, human beings were not meant to have this knowledge. So when Christians and people in general start saying that, oh, their eyes are going to be open and everything else merely because they're Christians, you kind of have to take a step back, because if that is true, that the ones that the Most High has, as a descriptive, selected as his own for whatever reason, then how is it that most, regardless of what your position is, are being deceived? And a lot of people say, well, the Most High wouldn't deceive his own. Well, if you're being deceived, but you think that simply because you're a Christian, you're not going to be deceived, but yet you're being deceived, what does that say? I'll let you think about that. And all this has to tie in, again, with the cycles of civilization, where we are in the late stage of the last age of civilization, the age of decadence, and we repeat history because history is forgotten either by chance or design. And in this stage, a lot of people, we live in the age of decadence, and a lot of people are bored. They're searching for something to make themselves feel more important. And a big part of this, and I do mention this in other videos, is we have lost the right to passage. We don't have a right to passage anymore in this civilization. It's been all erased. So there's nothing for people, even that basic fundamental of the rite of passage is gone. So people are trying to feel important, especially in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty, chaos, turmoil, and list goes on. People are grasping for something, and so they elevate themselves. It's false self-empowerment to something better, greater, bigger, whatever descriptive you want to use. And that ties into romanticizing. And I do talk about this in a few other videos months ago, where a lot of people, they romanticize who they are, their role in, for example, what's going to happen. And I talked about in previous videos where it had to deal with the current events and how a lot of people were saying, you know, about survival and prepping and all this other stuff. And for some reason, they, just based on their comments or what their posts are, they've completely romanticized how things are going to play out and their role. And I do say, for example, you know, a lot of people are preparing for the worst case scenario, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But a lot of people, most people, don't prepare for the worst case scenario even after they prepared for it. And I use, for example, their plans failing, you know, whatever. They get captured by some opposing force, whatever. People don't prepare for that because people have bought into too many of these movies, post-apocalyptic movies, especially when it comes to the lone wolf and all this other stuff. And the reality is, a lone wolf will perish a lot sooner than if you're in a group. You have a better chance of survival. But this video is not about that. As I said, I talk about this in other videos. The focus here is romanticizing self and events. And we see this really in the Christian communities, where they romanticize their role, who they are, how things are going to play out. And a lot of Christians, especially when it comes to spiritual experiences, which I also discuss in recent videos, are expecting some sort of Hollywood version of spiritual experiences, and it's not like that at all. It's, I would almost dare to say that it's the opposite. It's just things that happen to a few people, and a few people do have these types of experiences for real. There's a lot of people who believe they do, and I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, just to recap real quick, people are looking, praying for their eyes to be open and the truths to come out to them, and have all this knowledge that was never meant for the human creation. And these same people are saying that the Most High will never deceive them. And even if you look in Scripture, for example, you have the Tower of Babel. There's so many different stories where it's not a deception, but it's just how, for example, the Most High wanted things to play out. He hardened the heart of Pharaoh. So, and if you are being deceived, you don't even realize it. And then when, say, for example, someone else looks in, they're seeing this person has woken up to one or several different topics, but still slumber in everything else. Then you have to ask, well, is that person, or are you someone that belongs to the Most High? I hope all this makes sense. And this whole romanticizing things is all emotion-based, and that's a big problem. Everyone today is all about emotions. And it's not to say that emotions is not part of the human experience. It is. But if there's no balance, well, just look at the world today. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.